Hello! In this lesson we'll set up AI inside of Unity by picking the correct editor version, installing the AI assistant package, connecting to cloud services to ensure that we can start talking and giving commands to our AI. To begin working with AI in Unity, we need to use the Unity editor, which is sufficiently advanced. So once you open Unity Hub, in the Installs tab, make sure that you have Unity 6.0 or later. For example, I have already Unity 6.3 LTS or Unity 6.4 LTS. You can install them from here. So you'd click Install Editor and pick the version that you want. So I already have them installed. I'm going to jump into Projects and click on New Project. We're going to be making a 3D game, so I'm going to pick Universal 3D, select the version that I want to use. I'll pick the current latest one. And with Universal 3D, which is the graphics optimized rendering pipeline, I'll confirm which account I'm running this on. I have several, so I'm going to pick the second one. We'll give the name to my project. Let's call it AI 3D Shooter. Click Enter and confirm that the folder is correct. You don't need to use the Unity version control. This will be creating checkpoints in your project, but it's usually just better to use the GitHub. And click Create Project. So Unity Editor has started, and we can begin looking into its AI tools. In this Unity 6000 version, they've placed the AI controls in here. It's a drop-down which contains different menus for generating 3D, textures, and for communicating with the agent itself. If you don't see this drop-down, it means it's hidden, and you need to carefully click on those 3 vertical dots, and in the services, make sure that AI is ticked. So I've unticked it and it disappeared. Let's re-enable. Finally, to begin working, you need to install the Unity AI tools. If they're not installed, you'll have to add them into the project. So click on the drop-down, agree and install. If Windows shows a pop-up asking you for permission to let Unity use networking, click Allow, because this will let Unity AI to speak to their servers. You can confirm that the AI package has been installed by going into Window, Package Manager. In the window that opens, click on All Packages and verify that the assistant was installed. If for some reason you want to remove it from Unity, you would click on Manage and remove it. Lastly, we have to connect the project into cloud so that it's connected to Unity services. Go into Edit, Project Settings, search for the services, and click directly on them, not on the items below it. So click on the services and make sure that your project is linked. It is linked into the cloud to the game called AI 3D Shooter under My Organization. So this will be your username. And while we're here, we have this AI drop-down with the assistant section. You can look through it because those will be the settings that you might want to tweak if you want to change the behavior of your AI agent and how it responds, which tools it has access to, and if it can be controlled by something external like Claude or Gemini. So now that we've confirmed that our project is connected to the cloud and that we have the Unity AI subscription, we can finally begin working. Let's click on the AI dropdown, click Open Assistant, grab it by this little tag, and dock it somewhere where it's comfortable for us. This covers the basics of setting up Unity AI. We used the appropriate Unity version, installed the AI package, and made sure that it's connected to the cloud. In the next lesson, we'll speak with the AI assistant to begin building our game, its decorations and logic. See you in the next lesson. Welcome back. So after setting up our AI assistant, let's begin talking with it and building our game. I'll reposition the window of AI assistant to the right so that it's next to the inspector. And in the agent mode, we'll ask it to generate me a couple of images of a gun, for example. Because we're making a shooter, let's make it in the sci-fi style. Click on the arrow. This will send the message to Unity servers. And in there, their agents will start to think. You can see the agent is thinking which kind of prompt to use to generate the 2D image. And it's asking us for a permission. It's doing this because generating is going to be consuming tokens, so it's an expensive operation, and it also wants to create something in our project. So in the assets, it wants to create a folder called sprites and place into it a PNG that is called sci-fi gun. So it's going to end up somewhere in here. Let's click Allow. It received the permission, and now it's sent it for the generation to one of the generation engines. As we can see from here, it was considering which one to use, either Nano Banana or in this case Gemini 3 Pro, and it created some nice gun. Let's click on it. It highlights it in the project, and you can see that the new folder called sprites was automatically created by AI for us. And we have this image in here to inspect. If it's too little, you can click on this slider to change the size. We can double click it to open it with the usual Windows image preview. Look at it, and it's very decent, I would say. It's on the white background, which will make it easy to turn into a 3D model. So that's good. Let's close this. And we can see that the agent is eager to generate a second image. But in my case, I don't want it to spend any more tokens, and I'm okay with the image it made. So I'm going to click deny, or in fact, I'm just going to click on the stop. You don't have to thank it, at least not until you write the next set of commands, because if you thank it, it will use the resources and you'll spend tokens unnecessarily. So now we have this image. We can ask the agent to turn it into a 3D model. Because it wanted to keep generating other images, let's acknowledge that this single image was enough and tell it to make a 3D model. Thank you, I stopped you because the first image you generated is sufficient. Once again, this sends a message to Unity servers, and somewhere in there, it will begin thinking on how to turn this image into a three-dimensional volumetric geometry. If it wants to keep generating the gun, I'll click deny and see what it's asking me. So the agent is telling me that it wanted to keep generating the images because it wanted to remove the background from the image in order to make it transparent. So in this case, I'll say, indeed, please proceed removing the background from the image and then turn it into a 3D model. Give it the permission to do what it wants to. Now it has the transparent one, and it wants to generate a game object asset, which is the preliminary step to begin making a 3D model. Let's allow it once again. As you can see, it's using the Model 3D Tripo P1, which is a good one to generate a low-poly optimized 3D models. This might take some time, anywhere from 5 to 10 minutes, because it's a heavy task. You might get an error like this. The server is busy generating the model, so it might appear to be dropping the connection, but just give it time, because as we can see, it's generating something down here. If I click on this blue loading bar, we see that we're waiting for the server, and we're currently at 25%. It's working. There we go. The model was created. We have it in Assets Models folder. Immediately for such AI prefabs, let's right-click them and create a prefab variant. We should be spawning the variants in the world, not the original prefabs. This will make it easy to substitute the geometry if it has to be manually refined in the future. So I'm going to be dragging this variant into the world, and in my case, let's ensure that I'm in scene. Drag the variant in here and press F to focus on it. We want to ensure that it's an optimized model. So in the scene, let's click on the wireframe draw mode or the shaded wireframe draw mode and inspect how many dots and triangles it has. So we can see that the wireframe is pretty sparse. There are only a few triangles. It's not entirely black, meaning that it's quite optimized to be used in our game. Let's enable the fully lit mode and ask the AI assistant to generate a first-person controller so that we can run around with our gun within the scene. Because there was an interruption error, let's quickly acknowledge that its work was complete so it doesn't freak out, and tell it the next task. We want to be running around horizontally, jumping, rotating our camera, and we want to make sure that we see our gun always in front of us. Alright, our script was created pretty quickly. The AI agent wants to save it in a particular place in the scripts folder, so let's click allow. And if you're feeling safe, you can extend the permission to last permanently until the conversation is over, and click allow. This way, next time it wants to create a script, it will not ask you for the permission. Your approval will still be needed for generations and other things, but you can also allow it for the conversation in a similar way. The script was created and you can see it's compiling the scripts at the bottom right corner, so give it time. You can read what the agent wants to do further. It wants to attach this script onto the game object in our scene. So let's click allow. So far it was working just with the code and with the text, but now it wants to capture an image to have a look, like to visually perceive what is happening in the scene. So we can click allow and just do it for the conversation. It snapped several pictures, as we can see, and it's using it to execute the code because it noticed that stuff wasn't positioned properly in the scene. So let's allow it for the conversation to execute the code. And now it already has 3 permanent permissions that will last until this particular chat is over. It can save the scripts, can snap visual images, and can run commands to attach the scripts onto the game object in the scene. Cool. So it's telling us that the task has been complete. According to it, we can use WASD to move around, we can use the mouse to look around, and space to jump. That's nice. Let's enter the play mode. Great, so everything was how I requested. I have the gun at the lower right corner, can run around, and I see that the agent has also placed preliminary cubes, just so that we can identify the position in space easier. There are a couple of things that I want to change, so I'm going to press escape to see my mouse again, and stop the play mode. Going to click on the player, and press F to focus on them. Let me zoom in, and I see that the gun was positioned next to it. So I'm going to click on the sci-fi gun, maybe take the gun container, but actually in this case I want to have the modal, so sci-fi gun, press R and scale it up a bit. In the game view mode, let's dock it somewhere here. I want to make sure that we see the gun quite prominently so that it's larger, and I think this is sufficient. Of course I could have asked the agent to do this, but it's such a minor thing that is easier to do manually than waste tokens or bloat our chat with redundant instructions. You want to keep chat compact so that the agent doesn't waste efforts on minor things. So in this lesson, we started to communicate with our agent, asked it to generate a 2D image, and then told it to extract a 3D model out of this image. We then told it to create a controller, a script, which was attached onto a game object in our scene that now allows us to run around the scene. In the next lesson, we'll work on the design of our level and its decorations. We'll keep working with the images to generate props and different platforms and walls to serve as obstacles within our level. See you in the next video.